What's up, YouTube? So today is what's the date today? 12th, I think. Friday. Today is Friday, so 2 days post surgery. Yeah, 12th today. So I had my surgery on Wednesday, 10th of February. For those kind of jumping in throughout the series, this is my gynecomastia surgery. So I had that done on Wednesday. The surgery went really well. The doctor described it as uneventful. It was pretty simple. Started off with vasoliposuction and then the full gland exorcism. So I'll get into the process in a minute, but seems to be okay. A little bit tender. I don't have much range of motion in my left arm at the moment. It's the bigger gland. It was a little bit more difficult to do. But yeah, all seems to be okay at the moment. So kind of over the last couple of days, the day of the surgery and yesterday, I was actually going to record this yesterday, but I ended up getting some questions coming through, so I thought I'd wait and kind of answer a few of them in this video. I was actually going to release this yesterday, but I'm kind of redoing it with the answers to a few of the questions that came through. So this one, it might be a little bit more enlightening for those that are considering the surgery or have issues with gyno or don't even really know what it is. Like, this is kind of a video series for every guy to kind of get an understanding of what I've been through. I'm going to be extremely honest and transparent, even down to the prices of what I've paid for everything. And yeah, so the whole day was, do you know what, it's been really easy. So I went, I had my consultation 2 weeks ago via a phone call and some photos that I sent across. Obviously we're living in the world of Corona, so traveling around is a little bit limited. So my initial consultation with Dr. I don't want to butcher his name, but it's Nurain, Dr. Nurain, was done over the phone. He asked me a series of questions and had me take some photos of myself in some different angles and send them in. And we then discussed kind of why I wanted the surgery, what the reasoning kind of behind it was, and what would be best for me. We originally decided that just the gland exorcism or the removal of the gland would be what was needed, but when we got there on the day, they did a small amount of liposuction. It wasn't much, it was just a little bit of excess fat around the gland itself, so just to help it come out a little bit easier. But yeah, so the process from the consultation to surgery was just about 2 weeks. I had the consultation on a Saturday and I was in kind of 2 weeks following on the Wednesday. It was pretty seamless. The support was really good. They answered all my questions about traveling up there, parking, things like that, because obviously everything's a little bit different at the moment. So they were really good. They answered absolutely everything for me, and made the process really easy. When I got there, the staff, they couldn't do enough for me. It was absolutely a fantastic experience. And obviously so Lucy took me up, my missus, we were the only ones there to start with. So we kind of had the whole place to ourselves, which was quite nice. It was quite relaxing. After about half an hour, I sat down, filled in a questionnaire booklet for them, and after about half an hour, the doctor called me in to come and examine me in person and draw on me, turn me into an art book for a little bit, and explain the process. And obviously, being a bodybuilder, he was asking me about the shape. He had me flex in a couple of positions to see how it looked as it was. We took some photos of pre-surgery, and then within 15 minutes, I think it was, 15-20 minutes of seeing him, I was taken upstairs to have the surgery. The staff made the process so easy. So they gave me a diazepam, because this was all done under local, so I was actually awake for the whole thing. So they gave me 10 milligrams of diazepam just to chill me out a little bit, which just made the process that little bit more comfortable for me as well, I suppose. Because I was a little bit anxious. I've only ever had one surgery in my life and I was fully conked out for that. So they made that really easy. They weighed me, did my blood pressure, did my height, my blood pressure was a little bit high, but that was more anxiety than anything. And then they took me through. The actual surgery, for any of those that are kind of like worried about, I was really worried about being awake for this. Like I said, I've only ever had one surgery. It was a hernia surgery back in 2016, and I was put out for it. So I don't really have much experience with surgeries. And as a person, I tend to do everything within my power to avoid doctors, dentists, hearing, sight, anything uniform or anything like that. Unless I've absolutely got to see someone, I tend to try and avoid it. So this was a really big thing for me, especially with it being voluntary as well. Like, I was actually quite nervous about it. But I can tell you now, other than the odd feeling of like tugging, it was more audible than anything. I couldn't feel much, but you can hear things like the forceps clanking on each other. At one point he was using something to burn tissue away. You can't feel it at all unless there was one point where he caught a tiny bit of skin, which it didn't hurt, it smarted a little bit. It was enough to make me go, ooh, and that was about it. Other than that, I really couldn't feel much. They added a bit more anesthetic into my left pec. So my left pec, turns out the gland was a little bit bigger on the left side, a little bit more problematic, and was a little bit thicker to take out. All in all, the surgery was about an hour and a quarter. From getting onto the table to being fully taped up and wrapped up is about an hour and a quarter. The process of having it done, like I said, I couldn't feel anything. He explained what he was doing as he was doing it, which was really nice because I had a big sheet over my face, so I couldn't see anything. But it was nice to know what he was doing. He told me what side he was going to be working on first. They started on my left, which I'm glad they did because it made the right that little bit easier, and knowing that side was so bad, so much worse. I won't attach the photos of what the glands look like. If anyone watches this and wants to know, you can message me and I'll show you what the glands look like, because I did actually take photos of it. But they were quite sizable, which was interesting. He said they weren't the biggest he's ever seen, but they're definitely not anywhere near the smallest he's seen either. So kind of just sat in that middle range. The surgery, they played me some music, they kept me calm. Olga, the main assistant, was absolutely fantastic. She kept me not quite laughing, but smiling enough where things didn't bother me so much, because obviously you're led there for an hour and a quarter. I had a blood pressure cuff on my calf, which was going off every 10 minutes, which was kind of my only indication of how long things were going on for. But she kept making me laugh and smile, which was enough just to kind of relieve any anxiety, because as much as you're led there and you've got diazepam and you've got local anaesthetic in, you can still hear things and it still plays in your head, oh, what's he doing now, what's he doing now? And as much as he's explaining, sometimes your brain does have the chance to run away a little bit. But yeah, she kept me pretty calm. The weirdest feeling out of all of it was probably the liposuction, which, like I said, actually wasn't originally planned. It wasn't a full liposuction, like taking loads of crap out. It was just taking a little bit out that was around the gland that needed to go before they could remove the gland. And that's caused me the most issues actually post-surgery. So my chest is sore, like if I squeeze it, or like I opened a door earlier and I used my left arm, which normally I would, and it's just a little bit tender, but I don't have much range of motion. So I can get to about there before any discomfort. That's probably pushing it. And I can feel underneath where there's an incision in my armpit, or just below my armpit, which was where they started the incision for the vasoliposuction. So after the process, they've wrapped me up in wool. I've got this lovely sexy corset on. It's got some wool and then some bandage. So I've got plaster, wool, bandage and corset. I can't take this off for 3 days. So I had the surgery on Wednesday, so I can't take this off at all at any point until Sunday. I've got to wear it for 2 weeks solid, 24/7. I can only take it off for a maximum of 30 minutes when I need a shower, and then I've got to get it straight back on, and it's got to be tight, because they don't use drains anymore, which is really good for me, because that was one thing that I was a bit concerned about. but they don't use drains anymore. They use this compression, and it's squeezing on against the muscle. It is really uncomfortable, especially for sleeping. That's been my biggest issue. But outside of that, like, it's been pretty seamless. The pain in my chest, I only took paracetamol on the day of the surgery when I got home, just to help me sleep. I haven't had any since. But yeah, it's been a fantastic experience. The doctor that I went to, I'd recommend to anyone. The process from start to finish has been seamless. I've got to send some photos to him on Sunday when I take the first set of bandages off, to have a look at the incisions to make sure everything's okay. As to which he'll then see if I need to go back, because obviously again we're in this coronavirus world, so traveling around as little as possible. So we'll send some photos of the incisions over, how it's looking, how the chest is looking, and if he thinks I need to go back, then he'll let me know. If not, then we just continue the recovery process at home. All in all, I'm looking about 5 weeks for the recovery process. So 2 weeks of absolutely nothing. I'm not allowed to take my heart rate above 100 beats per minute, which, considering I've got a moderately high heart rate, means I can't do too much. I can go for walks, I've got to keep moving, but I definitely can't be doing too much. After 2 weeks, I can then bring back in some low intensity cardio from weeks 2 till 4. And then on week 4, I can bring back in light resistance exercise. And then by week 5, I should be fine to continue as normal. Obviously, I will be hesitant to start with. I'll go in nice and easy, but I can go back to normal, relatively normal exercise from that point. Just to aid the healing process on my own, I'm doing some growth hormone just to try and help heal that process, or speed up that recovery process with the scar tissue, because at no point is muscle touched during this surgery. So I've got no muscular damage at all, which is really, really good. So what they do, they remove the glands, they reshape you a little bit. There might be some voiding, just where, especially in my case, so much was removed, but that will fill out with muscle over time, and that's not even a guarantee. I might not have the voiding. But there's obviously that chance, so everything is nice, compressed down and looked after. And then when we get back to normal, it will just be a process of rebuilding. Obviously, it's going to take me a couple of weeks to get back into the rhythm of what I was doing before, but I'll be back under the watchful eye of my coach Tom. We will make sure that I'm not doing anything too stupid. And hopefully by the time I'm ready to get back to the gym, I'll either be doing light stuff at home, or I will be back in gyms with everyone else. So I'll have my training partner to keep an eye on me. We'll see what happens, how long this takes, and also how long the world, or the UK at least, takes to get back to some form of normality, but that's a different conversation. So a couple of questions that I've had from various people. One of the most common ones was actually cost. Now, cost varies from person to person depending on how much you need doing, whether you're having one side done because you've only got gyno on one side or whatever. What I had both sides done. I didn't have vasoliposuction originally planned, but they kind of added that on at no cost. But for me, it was 4,000. Obviously, getting it done in Poland and places like that are cheaper, but in this current climate, it's not really an option. Can't travel, and with gyms being closed, now's the prime opportunity to do it for me, to make sure that I've got good recovery time. I'm not missing anything because the gyms are closed, and then I can make sure I'm back and ready for the end of the year, making sure I'm able to compete and do the things that I want to do. So right now, it was worth spending the extra money. And to be fair, with the travel bans and and things like that, I think I'd end up paying probably in the same region because of the hotels and being isolated in the hotel, which is nearly $2,000. So I think all in all, I probably would have ended up paying about the same thing anyway. Obviously, having it done in London has made travel quite easy. So that was the other question, where did I have it done? So I had it done in London with Dr. Nurain. I will put a link to him in the bio to this video. And like I said, my personal surgery was £4,000. Everyone will be different depending on what you need, but that's a rough guide for what I paid. So if it's something that can that you're considering or something that you've looked at, bear in mind everyone's price is going to be slightly different, but for me that's the price that I've paid for it. I absolutely recommend the doctor that I went to, and also having the surgery done. There was a moment yesterday where I kind of sat and it almost felt like I'd lost a part of me for a second. Having it for 9 years, then the concept of it not being there anymore was a little bit weird. So that took me, I think that was only like a 5-minute thing. Sorry, my missus just came to the door. Like there was 5 minutes where I sat there and went, I've had this problem for coming on 9 years and now it's not going to be there. Like, what's it going to look like? Am I going to feel weird after this? Am I going to regret it? Which I know I won't, but it's that process of going in your mind. I've just lost something that I've had for 9 years. Now, as much as I wanted it gone and I'm glad it's gone, it's still a weird thing. Like when you're so self-conscious about something, it bothers you so much, especially more as I got into bodybuilding. It bothered me more, not necessarily because of what other people might think of me, but because I know bodybuilders look for things like that. It's something that we're all aware of. It's something that we're all kind of conscious of. So obviously associating with people in this industry a lot more, it was something that always played on my mind is, can they see? Sorry, I don't know what happened there. The video cut out. So as I was saying, just being conscious about how people would perceive it and things like that. So moving on from that bit, kind of lost my train of thought, but hey. Other questions I've had were, could I feel it? Could I feel like the surgery, things like that. Bits and pieces I could feel. It was more like tugging, kind of weird, but you get used to it really, really quickly. Obviously I was kind of led there for an hour and a quarter almost. I think it was about an hour and 5 minutes actually led there. So you get used to the feeling really quickly, and you just kind of relax and you sit back and just let it happen. Like your arms are pinned out to the side like you're in a big T. Well, that's about as far as I go. On the table, and they've got covering over them, and then obviously over your face. So you can't move much at all. So you kind of just get used to it really quickly. Any like bits that smarted, you could just squeeze the pad that was by your hand. And I couldn't really feel much. Like they put a good amount of anesthetic in. On my left side, they actually put a bit extra in halfway through, because I could feel the tugging a little bit more than apparently I should have. Which, like I said to the doctor, it didn't bother me. I was more than happy for him to continue, but he just gave me a little bit extra to make it more comfortable. And yeah, I was absolutely fine. I think the most sore part of the whole procedure itself was when they ripped all the coverings off of me, because they used quite a strong sellotape, and that was, they weren't gentle. They just ripped that off. That hurt a little bit, but that was probably the most painful bit of it all the needles for the anesthetic. If you don't like needles, that is a bit weird. Obviously, the needle is going right into your chest. It's got to go quite deep because the gland is normally quite deep, so it does go quite deep. But Olga, the assistant, she took my hand. Don't know why, because I said to them I've got no problem with needles. Kind of a bodybuilder, it's not a problem to me. But she took my hand anyway, and they went quite deep. Like you could really feel it. And then about 30 seconds later, couldn't feel a thing. I could hear him cutting around and doing what he was doing, but it didn't bother me. And how do I feel now? So other than tender and sore in certain movements, certain things I can't do, I'm happy I've had it done. I don't regret anything. I know it was expensive, and obviously for those that know me personally, I've got a wedding next year and things like that I'm saving for, but it's one of the best things I've ever done for myself. This is something that I've been thinking about for about 4 years, that I've wanted to do the surgery, and I've just been put in a position now where I can do it, and I'm so glad it's done. It's not even for the bodybuilding. Like for me, like I said, I'm getting married next year. I'd love to be able to wear a fitted shirt next year and not be conscious about the gyno showing through and the things like that. So for me, on a personal level, the concept of wearing a tight t-shirt in public, just walking around in the summer or going to the shops or something when we can eventually go back out into society, like I don't wear tight tops outside of the gym. I wear them in the gym sometimes because I know the pump will hide it enough where it's not as visible, but it's still there. So not having that problem, but being able to go out in public and wear a tight t-shirt is going to be game changing for me. Like, we go to the gym as bodybuilders to look good, like it's why we do this. So to then have to wear baggy clothes, yes, I like wearing baggy clothes, but there are times where I'd like to be able to put on a nice pair of jeans, put on a nice shirt and go out with my missus and not be conscious of the fact that my gyno is showing, I'm having a bad day with it, or anything like that. So for me, like, this is even more than just the bodybuilding. This is such a big personal win for me. So it's a very big thing. So I don't regret anything. I'm so glad it's done. Obviously, I want the recovery out of the way as quick as possible, but I'm not messing around with this. This is a big thing. It's a lot of money, so I'm taking this as seriously as possible and will be relaxed as much as possible for the first 2 weeks. But yeah, this will kind of be, this is obviously, like I said, 2 days post-surgery. So I'm going to do another one, probably a much shorter one, but a video on Sunday when I take the bandages off. It'll be my first look at the chest and nipples. So I'll do a reaction to that video, or a reaction to how it happens and what I feel, what I see, so you guys will see it exactly the same time as me. I'm going to be, like I said, I want to be as transparent with this as possible. So I will set up a camera on the tripod, and as I take the bandages off, you guys will be able to see it exactly the same time as me, and we'll go through the journey together, which I think would be pretty cool. But all in all, if you guys have any questions, either hit me up on Instagram, just send me a message, or just leave me a comment on the YouTube and I'll get back to you. Don't be afraid to ask any questions. There's no silly questions with this. And to be honest, there are questions that come through through this process that I've gone through that I didn't even know I had until I was going through it. So don't be afraid to ask any questions. Don't be afraid to message me. Like, it's absolutely fine, and anything we talk about will always just be between whoever's messaging me. But there's been some great questions come through, which I've answered personally, and if there's anything anyone wants me to cover, that's absolutely fine. But like I said, the next video will be the big reveal, the first time I take off the bandages, first time I get this bloody corset off as well, which would be really nice. But thank you very much for watching. Sorry about the technical glitch in the middle. I'll work out what that was for and won't happen again. But yeah, until next time guys, thank you very much for watching.